All right, we're gonna try this again. I don't know what the hell happened there, man. I got some message on the screen. I ain't never seen that shit before. All right, so let me give it a minute. So everybody switches over here. Don't know what happened. That was some crazy shit. Some message came across the screen, and it was saying some error needs to be fixed on the computer. I ain't never seen that shit before. It said it needed to restart. I don't fucking know. It just seems like when we talk about certain topics, shit just start cutting the fuck up. I don't know. So let me give it a minute or two so people can switch over. And the other fucked up thing is I gotta wait till that other one stops. I can't cancel that other one. So people are gonna see two of them. And what you got? I think it's all soft. Yeah, so if you see two lives there, I gotta figure out when I can't cancel that one. So hopefully people see it and come over to this one. I don't know what the hell's going on with that. So let me give it a minute. Hopefully people start catching on. Come over here. Don't know. Don't know what to say. Wish I had an answer, but I don't. What's the matter? What was it? Yeah. Yeah, some crazy shit going on. I'm telling you, I never seen that message before. Screen turned blue. Some shit about need to fix the error, got to restart the computer. I never seen that shit before, ever. And then the thing just automatically shut down and restart itself. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. Hopefully, that's the end of that. We had crazy shit pop off on Tuesday now. I don't like to go spooky, but sometimes it makes you wonder. Yeah, it depends on what we got going on or what's on here. It's like somebody don't want information to get out. Here's what it is, right? I feel you, Azaria. Anyway, let's try this again. I don't know if the other one. Let me see what it shows. If there's two live. Let me see if that other one. Yeah, because it was at the beach on Saturday. Mm-hmm. It's great. Yeah, it's showing two lives. I don't know why. Yeah, it's still showing the two lives. I just can't figure out how to cancel that. I'll figure it out later. Anyway, let's try this again. Happy Halloween. A lot of energy. As I was finishing up real quick to save time and get to the topic, because we just pretty much blew 25 minutes. Lilith class Saturday, 3 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have until tomorrow, late tomorrow afternoon, early Saturday, early Friday to sign up. So just want to put that out there, 3 to 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you're not in Eastern Standard Time Zone, please adjust your time accordingly so you show up on time or do not show up late. All right. Readings and consultations. I've been busy since the Black Adept Conference ended. You hear the bells and the doors, you have to work with it. Got people knocking on the door, trick-or-treating, and all that good shit. Readings and consultations, since I took 4 days off last week for the Journey of the Black Adept Conference number 2. I had to get in full gear starting on Monday. I'm just getting caught up. So if you need a spiritual reading or a consultation, shoot me an email, send me the days and times you're available, time zone you live in, and I'll set up a day and time that works for both of us. So next year, we already established a date for Journey of the Black Adept Conference number 3. That will be October 26th to the 28th next year. Just to put that out there, we're going to start pumping it as we did last year, immediately after the other one ended. This way it gives people time to prepare well in advance. Always will be on the last month in October, right? 26th to 28th. I will be working on this weekend to figure out what ritual working we will be doing here at the end of the month. I'll come up with something after the Lilith class is open and over. And where I got cut off, I was saying people are already emailing about the next full online session of classes, which will be mid to late January. I will work on that curriculum, this week going into next week, and I'll start putting that information out there. All right. Also, remember to hit the like button. The like button expands the channel. It reaches more people with the more likes the videos get. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. You will get a notification anytime I go live or upload a new video. Also, check us out on Primordial Chaos on Instagram, Primordial Chaos on Facebook. If you would like to donate and support the channel, it's monetized. All you got to do is go to the bottom of the chat there, hit the money symbol. You can make a donation, or you can go to PayPal using the email that you see in the description box of all my videos, khnum19@gmail.com. That's the way to contact me. So what I want to go over tonight, we've heard the statement apotheosis many times on this path. It is a Greek word. It is phonetically aligned with apotheosis. We're going to go through the process of what that is from a Luciferian perspective, a Luciferian mindset. We're going to talk about the shadow self and how that's connected to apotheosis, which is very important. But we're going to talk about apotheosis first on 3 particular levels. All right. I'm going to use a very good book that I'm going to put up on the screen to show you guys. Some of you might already have it, but for those that may not have the book, I definitely suggest a book you add to your collection, your library, to your studies, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a book that'll benefit you. So I'm going to use a couple of excerpts. We've had Richard K. Page on the show 3 times. This is his book, Luciferianism, Ego Sum, right? This is a very good book. Again, Richard K. Page. We've had him on the show 3 times, and I will next week reach out to some guests. I'm going to get some more guests back on the show. You can find Richard's book easily accessible. All of them are available on Amazon. You can go to his website, solophi.com, SOLOPHI.com. So this is what I'm going to be coming out of tonight. So I have the hard copy. I can put it up there and show you. Richard has put out several books on Luciferianism, and he's in the process of completing his newest one. So he's got a couple of sections in here. One on darkness, which deals with the shadow self. I'm going to go to that in a second. But I want to talk about mental, physical, and full apotheosis. I'm going to focus on those 3 aspects. Because in essence, apotheosis is what we're trying, which is the goal in a short summarization of what we're trying to accomplish. All right. In essence, that is your goal. All right. So let's start first with mental apotheosis. Let me grab the page. I'm going to go through a little bit of this material. Then we'll build on it. When I'm done, you guys have time to ask questions if you got any comments. And what you trying to do, buddy? Trying to get me cavities? All right, I'm just kidding. No, it's right. Just leave it right there. It's okay. Leave it right there. No, don't put it in the bag. All right. What else we got here? Hold on. All right. So when apotheosis being self-deification, right? Understanding that the divine resides within yourself. As I've said many times before in previous videos that I've done on Luciferianism, you don't, quote unquote, need to be a full-fledged Luciferian or make a declaration that you need to give some allegiance to that system to practice Luciferian principles. It is a state of mind. It is a way of thinking. It's an approach to things. So you can utilize this and use these concepts on your path in various different ways. So I want to make that clear. There's a lot of bullshit out there on Luciferianism, just like there is other stuff. And I'm talking more so the sensationalism. If you think Luciferians are some secret cult that is part of the New World Order and is controlling the world's resources, and they have these secret rituals, hidden something, that's all that internet sensationalism, conspiracy theory shit. That's not what it is. Apotheosis, which is self-deification, is probably one of the main things that a Luciferian is trying to obtain. When we say self-deification, or living to the potential to become a god or a goddess, let's eliminate from our mind, when we hear that word God, we're not talking about the spook monotheistic God and how it's connected via monotheism through Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. That's a fictitious God. All we mean simply, when you hear me use the term God and goddesses, and this is why I greet everybody like that when the show begins, a god or a goddess is just somebody who takes responsibility for their actions and takes full responsibility for their successes and their failures, and they do not blame anybody for their issues, their problems, their shortcomings. That's what it means to be a god or a goddess in a short nutshell. Now, is there more dynamics to that? Yes, we're going to talk about that. But in a nutshell, I want to make sure we're removing the mythological concept via religion and indoctrination that we've been programmed with from a young child to an adult. Because religious people, we hear that, oh, God, oh, blasphemy. Well, from a religious mindset, yes, that will come off as blasphemy. Okay, but we're not looking at it from that mindset. All right, so let's establish that. So let's talk about mental apotheosis first. All right. By this point, you will have already experienced the universal oneness. The third eye awakening, as it's sometimes called, or creates a unity between yourself and the polytheon. Now, when we talk about a universal oneness, let me establish something. In order to understand that oneness, there must be separation or isolation to have any understanding of it. So when we get this false concept and other philosophies, dogmas, and ideologies, all right, you must become one with the universe. That's a bunch of bullshit. You must separate completely from everything to understand what that universe, multiverses, really, what it's really comprised of. Because remember, your subjective mind creates multiverses. You've created realms upon realms via your imagination, right? In the word imagination, you have the word image, right? You create images. Images give sight, visions, give life to things. So your imagination that give images or life to things you create via your subjective realm. Okay? So this is important to understand. So in order to understand this oneness that a lot of dogmas talk about, in order to understand this oneness that they talk about, you must separate from it first to even perceive it. This is what we call the isolated consciousness. Whereas a lot of other systems will teach you reverse. You must be one with it, but they don't ever show you really how to do that. They just tell you all these restrictions, laws, rules, and regulations of what you should and should not do, rather than show you a step-by-step process of how you actually connect with that concept. Via apotheosis, which we're going to talk about, and the first step, mental apotheosis, we're going to talk a little bit about that. All right, so the third eye awakening, as it is sometimes called, creates a unity between yourself and the polytheon. For most people in their lives, this will be an extent of their journey. And it is more than sufficient to manifest your reality in the prime material plane. In this phase, with the practice, you can connect to other open channels. Some could see this as psychic ability, telepathy, empathy, spiritualism, or commune with deity or God. Different people seemingly are more adapted to specific fields, empathy being the more common one, emotions being the extreme definitions of consciousness. They have a more violent vibration. All right. In other languages, they is used as similar to we or you. It creates a subjective relationship to another person or adversary, someone who is not us, much like the definition of the word Satan, right? This has heavily influenced the perception of the biblical Lucifer. It also means egg, which supports the reptilian symbology of the snake. In all examples, the common theme is a conduit which winds around feeding essential nectar from a source to the destination. The or they is a barrier of substance, the medium, waveform, the light, and our benefactor. Venus is associated with such a source, like Lucifer is not the light itself, but the medium through which source travels. So that's why you see the term light bearer. He bears the light. But one has to be able to tap in to symbolically that light or intellect on their own, okay? And you do that via your ritualistic work. We're going to get more clarity on that when we go, after we talk about the three aspects of apotheosis. We're going to go into the shadow self, right? That'll kind of connect all that together, all right? Venus is the reflected sunlight, as you can see the word sun, earth in its astrological cycle. Every 72 degrees forming the 72 names of God, which we know as the Goetia, right? The 72 demons. So now we see astrological and a mathematical connection. So now you see Lucifer being the light bearer or the light, and the 72, whether you call them the Goetias, the lords of darkness, the demonic spirits, those are the lights that emanate from the light bearer. Remember, he facilitates the light. So those are aspects or fragment of the light bearer, Lucifer, that we all tend to work with on different paths, all right? This is important to understand. There's sacredness to that number 9. We see it as 72, but when we add the 7 and 2 together, we get 9. We know 9 opens what we call igniting the black flame, opening the realms or the gates. We know a lot in our ritualistic work. We always toll the bell when we open 9 times and we close it 9 times. And there's a connection with that. It's not a coincidence that they label the Goetias or the Lords of Darkness in the numbers of 7 and 2, as you just saw here. All right, with light, the 72 names, right? Phi or Phi is the number Ve indicates a path in which Phi is expressed universally. Phi is also used as a symbol of the gold. Phi is always used as a golden ratio on other occasions in math and science, or I'm sorry, pi. It is used to represent the phase of a wave. You will find pi to be essential to your study of occult sciences. It is worth noting the astrological significance and all its esoterical meaning if you want to learn more from its place, such as in the stories of Adam and Eve in your biblical story, right? As you become a neophyte, it's far too much of a diversion from this particular book. But if you choose mathematics as your particular field of excellence, here's a great magical starter to pique your interest. All right. You'll see some number sequences he have here, breaking down pi. You can look at that at your own time. All right. Physical apotheosis. These are short sections, and then I'm going to go into the shadow stuff, and then we'll talk about this. All right. That the true God of the earth is Satan, and I've been talking about this. It's fucking, you gotta be fucking kidding me with this connection shit again. I really think people fucking around, to be honest with you. All right, went away. Hopefully, as soon as I mention that shit, it's fucking crazy. All right, I've been saying that for the longest. Do you really, if you're a religious faith-based person, do you really know who the biblical God is? Well, there's your answer. We talked about this. I'm not going to get too much into that at the moment. Many people struggle to accept this as, once again, the conceptual Satan we perceive that is defined by the historical rhetoric of a society which is corrupted by the church in its bid to gain power over the physical realm in the place of Satan, using the mental spiritual one, or Ayin, in a solitary governance. The Ayin, or Ayin self, which I would call the Polytheon, is divided amongst all universal consciousness equally. You will also see this in Hindu and Eastern mysticism as the Ayin principle, right? You will hear them chant this. Ayin. It kind of almost sounds like the Om. And it taps into that, as the terms described here, solitary governance, vibrational frequency, connecting on the right level to get an understanding of what this energy is might be communicating to you, how you're connecting with it, the awareness that it is opening you up to, etc. That's all connected also to what they call the Ayin principle, right? By alleging the representation of the collective Polytheon, the church and other organized religions seek to obtain governance over all humanity's spiritual presence. We know that religion tries to take a strong hold, and it's basically centered around control, right? But man is divided into both spiritual and physical. Our spiritual self we have proper governance of, and our absolute sovereignty of. Its kingdom and submission to another authority grants that authority reign over our soul. So when you submit your divinity to something outside of yourself, be it a religion, a philosophy, a dogma, or an external deity, you're no longer in control. That's totally against what apotheosis represents, right? A Luciferian or anybody on the path to self-mastery, whatever you want to call it, they never go outside of themselves seeking salvation, because they know all they're going to do is run into brick walls, dead ends. To find the divinity and the truth to the answers that you're seeking, you only need to look in the mirror. Because the God most people have been searching for all their lives has always been present. They just haven't been aware of it. Because religion stripped that awareness away, and it focuses on control via fear, via threats of death and eternal damnation. Because remember, fear is the emotion used to control people. So if I create a system where I tell you, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, some great horrific tragedy is going to take place. That keeps you in line, keeps your emotions in check. And those that know, if I can control you via fear through your emotions, I can pretty dictate to you what I want you to do. If I want you to jump, you say how high. If I want you to move left, you move left. If I want you to move right, you move right. All done through the emotion, fear. All right? We become a province of another's domain. Gaining sufficient provinces in support of a single governance defines the highest authority in that structure as God of that spiritual collective. Ergo, the church, and therefore by default its representatives, and extending into their hierarchy up to the Pope, can claim to be the spiritual God's representatives on earth. When we submit to their authority, we further submit to their hierarchy, and the buck stops at the summit of their structure. Okay? This is, look, a hierarchy is the best word to describe this. A self-proclaimed hierarchy. The Pope, Papa, claims, it's fucking bizarre, but it's a gimmick they've been running for thousands of years now. They basically have convinced the world that they are in the direct line or a succession of the Apostle Peter, who founded the church, which really, other than self-proclamation and how they set it up, there's really no other way to prove it. But the lie was put out there so heavily that here we are a couple thousand years later, and there's still people sipping the Kool-Aid and falling for it. All right? The battle for mass representation forms the struggle amongst the constructed spiritual gods. Their leaders gain power as gods by the number of submissions to that order and its ranks. It is a battle for governance of the mind, or government in its most literal definition. Government. Satan is God of the physical realm by definition, that we are not absolute masters of the physical universe. We're striving to be. And this is why I say I can't understand how people go spook, spiritual, and deep. They want to talk about astral traveling. They want to talk about all these intense spiritual experiences. They have visions, dreams. They think they're somebody else. They're an incarnation of something. But as it said here, they haven't even mastered the physical realm. What have I been saying since day one? Your spiritual experiences, your spiritual work, whatever it is you practice, you should see a reflection of that in your everyday mundane existence. I don't give a fuck if you say it's an illusion, whatever path you follow, whatever theories you have on that. Because to me, it's a scapegoat out to say, oh, this physical world's an illusion. Because most people that say that are unsuccessful people on the physical realm. That's a fact. And I guarantee you, you will see well over 90% of the people that say that shit struggle in every aspect of their mundane existence. Whether it's finances, family life, relationships, parenthood, whatever it may be, they struggle. So it's easy to say, I'm some deep, heavy spiritual being that's connected on this quasi-dimensional level, and it's a scapegoat for being a failure here. So if you're connected to the energy of the adversary, you must master this shit first. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You can drop whatever heavy science you want. You can sound as deep as you want. And when you're done, I'm just going to turn to you and say, okay, how is that transitioning to the now in your mundane existence? And if all you can do is get spooked me and say, this world's an illusion, I created it. So you created a poor failure existence for yourself. It makes absolutely no fucking sense. You can't sell that any way you package it up. So we have to stay grounded in reality. I've talked many times over the years about creating harmony between the objective realm, the physical, and the subjective, the spiritual. There has to be a resonating harmony between the both. If you're too subjective, you're usually a space cadet. You're spooky. Everything is of a spook nature. You're not grounded in reality. And if you're too physical and materialistic, you're lacking in spirituality, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. But when you are treading that beautiful line in between and you're bridging the gaps and putting that harmony there, that's the well-rounded individual. That's the well-rounded magician. That's the well-rounded adept. They know when it's time to play. They know when it's time to work. They know when it's time to meditate. They know when it's time to do ritualistic work. They know when it's time just to rest, chill, and do absolutely nothing. This is your well-rounded person. This is the person that is connected to everything that resonates and vibrates within and how they connect with it on an exterior level. And of course, how they connect to it to their mundane existence. I know you're going to have a lot of groups out there, people, spiritual systems that always tell you avoid the physical realm, the physical world. It's all an illusion. Don't give into any of that stuff. Again, do the math. Check the resume. Those are usually people that are failures. And they use that as an escape concept. So then they now have a crutch to lean on and an excuse for being failures here. So I say that to say what it said here. Satan is the god of the physical realm by definition, that we are not absolute masters of the physical universe. How do you know that? If you're still trying to find methods and struggling to pay your mortgage and your rent, you're still working on it. If you don't have all the money you desire to do all the things you need to do, to live the life you need to live, you're still working on it. You haven't mastered it. If you're not driving the car your soul heart desires, you're still working on it. You haven't mastered it. If you are not absolutely the best mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, auntie, grandparent, you're still working on it. Okay? I can go on and on. We could be here all night talking about this shit. See, we think stuff like that is very trivial, or it's not as important, because I could bypass all that and say, hey, I had a dream. I went into this. Who gives a fuck? Honestly, that's just my take on it. Who gives a fuck? I'm not interested in somebody else's subjective experiences. Why? Because I didn't have the same experience. So if I co-sign on it, we just started another religion. Now, maybe in that dream or experience you're sharing, I might have some similarities. We might be able to vibe on certain aspects of it, but I don't co-sign on nobody's shit. Just like I wouldn't expect nobody to co-sign on my personal shit. That would be foolish. So I would tell you guys to be careful of people that do videos and all they do is talk about in their videos how special they are and how they're connected to beings and they talk to aliens, whatever the fuck it is they're talking to. Be very cautious with people like that, because there's an agenda at the root. They're looking for followers. They're trying to place themselves on a pedestal. and they're trying to grade, I am the leader, the special Messiah type figure, and you are my students and followers. That's basically what that shit is. Translated to simplistic term, conscious pimps. And there's a lot of conscious pimps. And they use these platforms to pimp people out. All right. They say apotheosis is the complete opposite of that. You don't succumb, subscribe, come up under anything or anybody. You bow to nothing or no one. You are God. You make the choices and you learn by your mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. And if you join these Mickey Mouse clubs and you get up under these people out of fear and out of ignorance because you make mistakes, mistakes are some of the best teachings or teaching aspects or life lessons you will learn. It's okay to make mistakes. We'll continue to make mistakes. But as long as you learn from those mistakes and you don't repeat them, it is okay. Some people struggle on their path because they're trying to be perfect. They're trying too hard to be perfect. And in that trying or overdoing it of being perfect, they're not seeing the lessons of life. Because life is the best teacher. Okay? And you learn by going through your experiences, not having or seeing it through the eyes of somebody else's experiences. These are your people like your Dr. Yorks. They want you to see spirituality through their eyes. Okay? They want you to look at it the way they see it, the way the organization sees it. And if you don't, then you're ostracized and you're a cast out and you're a troublemaker. Okay? Remember, I had a conversation, I don't know who this was. I was talking about somebody. It was about, in reference to part of this journey, you have to understand, you have to take by yourself. I can't remember. I was talking to somebody about this a few days ago. And realize part of this journey, a large part of it, you have to take by yourself. And at what point does the student let go of the teacher's hand and the student becomes the teacher himself? Ask yourself that question. For all those that want to be followers, for all those that want to be part of these Mickey Mouse clubs, groups, and organizations, and think that some conscious pimp or leader is going to take them to some euphoria, eternal bliss, heaven, or paradise, that one individual has the key to their salvation, you're a complete bumbling fool. Okay? It's not going to happen. All right? Don't fall for it. Don't sip the Kool-Aid. Okay? Trust in the process. Trust in yourself. Why? You're going to find this at sometimes can be a very lonely path because you have to take this journey, a large percentage of it alone. And here's the thing. Not everybody can give you the answers to all your questions. Figure that out as you travel the path. I always tell people that not everything's going to be able to be answered for you. You got to be able to figure some of it out for yourself. So stop thinking somebody can. I am not interested in follows. I get emails all the time. One, because I don't have time to do it. Can you take me on? Can you mentor me? I can't. So let me put that out there. One, I don't have the time to. Two, it's not something I really care to do because that can get misconstrued and it creates a follower kind of relationship. And I'm not really down for that. So those that have emailed me about that over the years, it's not that I'm blowing you off when I respond to you. It's just a path and a choice that I've taken that I feel is not only productive for the individual, but it's not productive for me. So I don't do that. So nobody emailed me about can you become my mentor? I don't have. I couldn't give you the time and the attention you need. Now I do offer. I'd say if you got questions, I'd be more than happy. Shoot me an email. I'll assist you the best way I can. But I just don't have the time for it. And you're gonna find out. You need to make the time to find out the answers to some of the questions you're seeking. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, and I say this in a polite way, but I got to keep it real. Some of the emails are dumb as fuck. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. It's just some basic shit that you should be able to figure out. And it baffles me because some of these people claim they read and they study, but some of the questions I get makes me question, what is it you're reading? Are you just collecting books and those books sitting on your shelf collecting dust? Are you really putting in an honest effort to do the work and research and figure it out for yourself? Or is it easier for you to just ask somebody because you don't want to take the time and effort? All right. All right. Anyway, let's continue on with this. Violence and action can only accomplish our attempts to manipulate that environment. The laws of nature impose regulations on us beyond our resistance, and therefore we must submit to that God as an entity. Our bodies are weak compared to our minds. The name Satan denotes the evil rhetoric that the pretender to the spiritual throne, the church, has designated it, using the age-old tactic of you're either with us or against us, right? That's classic. If you propagate the idea that the enemy is evil, then that makes it easier for you to gain allies and therefore supporters and subjects to your leadership. For thousands of lies that a Satan figure must be evil by its mere state as a contrary element to the incumbent other God figure favored by mainstream religions. So it becomes difficult for even the people who identify themselves as Satanists to escape a preposition, which was constructed by propagandists' subjective stance, which has become a long-standing principle of a global mindset. Satan is merely nature, the physical realms, and the resultant laws of the physical universe we experience. It's the adversary, all right? Don't get me wrong, I am not a Satanist. And remember, don't confuse. So when I've had Richard on the show, we talked about that in dealing with subject of Luciferianism. There's a mistake I see in some circles. A Satanist and a Luciferian is not the same thing. Let me make that clear. Luciferians don't approach how some modern day traditional Satanists do with, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, modern day Satanism is to me very religious in nature in certain aspects of it. So don't confuse the two. I just want to make that clear. And that's basically what Richard is saying here, the author. All right. All right. I despise the fact that anything has enforced a law over me. The fact gravity binds me to this planet is a law which I did not, remember, subscribe to. Conceivably, an eternal spiritual existed prior to my physical realm. I have been submitted to the ruling God of nature, and therefore I have already committed to the Gnostic version of Satan. And my presence here is indeed conceivably the very original sin that the Catholic Church suggests we are all born into, and the assumption that as an eternal spirit we chose to incarnate. Okay? Almost done with this, a few more pages. Under that paradigm, all newborn babies assuming an eternal soul are already guilty of submission to the perceptual, physical, satanic corruption of pure spiritual form. And I never understood that. You know, that's a concept they've taught. And again, it programmed that, again, there's this, it's the beginning stages of that fear factor. In essence is what it is. All right. Maybe that is the mindset behind the original Christian practice of sacrificing babies. Maybe they thought they were saving their souls from their perceived Satan. Yes, in case you didn't know, sacrificing babies was once indeed an early Christian practice, which was why it was greatly condemned and forced into secret underground rituals. Second Book of Kings. You can find where it was condoned to sacrifice, and not only sacrifice babies and eat babies, but they'll tell you Satanists do shit like that. But as it's saying here, do your research. The Bible actually condones that at one point as a practice. Watch. All right. It was then greatly condemned and forced into secret underground rituals, while other similar religions like Judaism was perfectly permissible by the Romans. King cake is the modern version of this diabolical practice. The daily bread sought by the Christians and replicated in the story of the Last Supper was indeed, as is claimed, Jesus states, human flesh. All right, now here's the fucking fuckery with that, and I've talked about this before, okay? The Mass, as we know in the Catholic Church, is very vampiric in nature. They have a practice. They say the turning of the bread and the wine into the body and the blood, Jesus Christ. They use a term called transubstantiation, okay? They say that they're literally, they're a ritual saying that once they bless this Eucharist, this bread and the wine, it literally becomes the body and the blood of Christ. Now think about this. Then you have people that walk up in a line, blood and flesh. Think of the mental fuckery in that real quick. Really focus on that. If you never looked at it like that, think about what that really represents. Okay? This is what they do. So there's a ritual being played out right before your eyes, and you don't even see it. But nobody questions that. Nobody talks about that. Why? Well, most people in it don't even really know why. Anyway, let's continue. So the Last Supper was indeed, as is claimed, Jesus states, human flesh. Please do not harm babies or anyone. Not a roadmap to your salvation, one way or another. Evidence suggests that it is still a common but secret practice as more and more evidence emerges in Catholic orphanages of ritually abused and tortured children all over the world. Of course, when they get caught, they cover it up or invert it to claim it is satanic practice. I assure you it is anything but true Satanism. It is anything but. True Satanism is to embrace physical life and enjoy it and all its pleasures you can get from exploring your physicality for as long as possible. The most heinous of all Catholic churches, terrible activity for which they have continuously been accused of, their opponent Satanists have committed is clearly shown by an objective investigation to have been committed by people representing the church and has been for the largest organized and institutionally enabled cover-up of child abuse. It's they'll judge other people, condemn other people, and they are the biggest abusers, physically and sexually, of children all across. Okay, there's an underlying. The sex abuse scandal has been covered up for years now. It really hit the fan in the early 2000s. I mean, obviously, it's been going on a lot longer than that, as we found out. But this has been going on for years, and all they do, there's been priests, they've moved from one place to another. As Richard says in the book here, they just cover it up. They just move them from another parish to another parish. And in some cases, when they've done that, the priest has left one parish where they were found to be committing these crimes, and they've done it at another one that they were moved to. So there's a sickness here. Right. Or is there a ritual being carried out right in front of our face? Because we know in the innocence of a child, that is the purest human or physical sacrifice you can use in certain rituals. Okay? So who's doing the abusing of these innocent children? It's not the Satanists. Because you really can't find, I'm not talking about a theoretical, I'm about a conspiracy theorist. There's a lot of information out there that modern day Satanism and all that is babies being sacrificed and human sacrifice, but there's no concrete factual information to support it. But yet we have concrete factual information that can support these sick pedophiles that are doing this shit. It's clear as day. But they get a free pass though. Why? Ask yourself the powers that be that make the rules and regulations. That's why. Okay? So we got to look at this. Look at this from a different perspective. All right? It is not an outlandish claim to look into it yourself. The church is evil and enabling of miscreant priests always has been. It's nothing to do with scandal and damage limitation. It is endemic of their nature. Why do you think most of them come in? Because it's a playground for them to look exactly for what they're looking for. Some are in denial about their homosexuality. So why not go into an all-male environment? Think about it. Think about it. You think you're going to hide there, but it's not going to work. Fucking Halloween, goddamn baby roots, man. Baby roots. All right. The intent of physical apotheosis has already begun at your birth and will continue as you have occupied some of the physical universe. In universal terms, you have expressed yourself physically. And in reproduction, you continue to express yourself by imbuing the physical universe with more spiritual consciousness in your offspring. Great news. Sex, you enjoy it. Do it. And if you can, reproduce. As the Bible says, go forth and multiply, because it is by multiplying you summon other many instances of Satanists from other into the physical realm of nature with the most potent summoning spellcraft. We have the rhythmic vibrations of opposing polarities into a uniform wavelength, concluding with an orgasmic climax of universal creationism, life. The union man father and the woman mother, unify the unification of spirit father and matter mother. As above, so is below. What a beautiful thing. Even death in our physicality and decay disperse across our local environment. The atoms and our very core is infinite and will spread and grow into the substance of stars and other life. We are told that we are stuff of the stars, right? You hear this term, it's been a big thing the last several years. We're cosmic dust. I don't know if we're dust, dirt, sand, whatever the fuck. You get the concept, all right? So we are told that we are the stuff of stars from the creation of the universe. But one overlooked is that we will be the stuff of stars and life for eternity to come. What is Leviathan? The principle of continuity and existence. Talked about the Ouroboros the other night, right? Physical apotheosis is our presence in the material universe, the mother of all things, and nature. That's physical apotheosis. And the last section I'm going to finish with, which is short, and I'm going to darkness and the shadow self real quick. Full apotheosis. Let's talk about that real quick. All right? Get some water here. We're going to go through this. We're going to get through it, people. This is the reason why I chose this subject, if you want to really understand what true Luciferianism is about, this what we're discussing right here. This is what Luciferian principles and concepts comprise of, what it makes up, the methodology, the way of thinking, the approach, all right? All right, so full apotheosis. The concept of full apotheosis at the stage of binary state of the living human being is the resolution of your entire estate, the ego sum. That's why the book is titled that. The final summation of all that you are, the knowledge and the transition, the wisdom, or as some mythologies call in the kingdom of heaven, nirvana, Valhalla. By great syncretic alignment, and all these places are described as being behind a gate or a doorway. In the Western world, we call that doorway death, a word hermetically sealed but phonetically exposed in the Hebrew tree of life, where it is called Dath, D-A-A-T-H, which translates to wisdom or to the knowledge and forms the shadow translation of the Kabbalistic tree of life into the alternate realm. Dath or Da'at is the doorway, which begins our cyclic apotheosis for this existence. Death is located in the center of the tree as it is the resolution of all your presence. And as we said many times before, death is the doorway to, it's not the end. Acts as the individual as it is only from acquiring all understanding that we can use the data from which we select a comprehensive truth. The more data learned in life, the greater your chance of having all the correct information on hand, which you can judge your ultimate and eternal truth. So stop being a lazy fucker is what this is saying. If you're not going to do your work, you're not going to put in the energy, the effort, the time, and the consistency to do it, and you're just a lazy motherfucker that thinks somebody else is going to do it all for you, you're fooling yourself. Because as it says here, until then and only then, when you start to put the work in, correct information, all of these things just described, okay? Only then will you start to grow and get that understanding you've been searching for, all right? As much as you do in life, listen to this shit. You have always been the center of your universe and death. Remember I said, and I did a video a while, but you must die many times to truly live. Now, when we're talking about death, we're not just talking about a physical death. You're going to die many mental deaths. What is a mental death? A mental death is leaving an old way of thinking behind that's not productive for you no more. It needs to be destroyed or killed or die. That's a mental death. And then you're resurrected mentally as you transition into your new path of spirituality or awareness. You will suffer emotional deaths many times in your existence. An emotional death can be a crushing, disastrous end to a bad relationship. You can suffer emotional death can be the loss of a loved one, right? A part of you dies until you learn to grip it, deal with it, resurrect that part of yourself. The list goes on and on. I think, because as it says, full apotheosis is the full sum, or the ego sum, the total equation of really who and what you are. But the difference is you have a full understanding of really who and what you are. The shadow self, when we get into that in a minute, that's going to make it a little bit more clearer. All right? So you are the center of your universe and death and becomes whatever you absolutely believe it to be. So if you think you're going to die and go to there's this place you could possibly go to hell where you're going to be tortured with pitchforks and some character on a hot sauce bottle holding a trident is going to be torturing you and there's going to be all this fire. You create your own heaven and hell. And they intention. Now keep this in mind with the fuckery with the word. Hell, Hades, which is Greek, and haven or heaven, which is a place below hiding or enclosure. See, they play mind games with you with the words. And then they create imagery to support it. So if that's what you accept and believe in your mind, then that's what it is. It's that simple. But it's also as simple as the individual who totally shuns that concept, who doesn't accept it, completely rejects it, and puts it in the category as faith and a false myth. It's not a reality. So heaven and hell is what you make it, right? Heaven can be hitting the lotto. Heaven can be coming across a large sum of money. Heaven could be living the life you've always wished and desired. Hell can be being in the wrong place at the wrong time, getting robbed. That could be a form of hell. Okay, the list goes on and on. You get the point. All right. So it's what you believe it to be. If you choose an eternity of rest, nothing, and cessation of consciousness, then that is what you will receive. That is what your collected wisdom will be. Your domain in death will be that. If you choose to go to a cloud of angels, then that is where you will go. If you decide reincarnation, then reincarnation is what you will receive. If you seek truth, then truth becomes what you conclude truth is. But truth can never be faith. Faith is a lie. Truth is your truth, absolute and unquestionable. Although remember, it is only your truth, and trying to convince others to believe what you believe is impossible. I've said that a million times before. Stop trying to get people to agree with your ideology as if it's the only way to say things. Then stop being a little bitch and getting mad when people don't agree with you. Because you got to be a damn fool if you think everybody's going to see things the way you see them and agree with everything you say or accept. You got to be a complete bumbling fool, idiot. So this is what this is explaining. You must understand that, okay? It's impossible. At best, all you can do is provide them with some information. They will conclude their own truth regardless of your conviction. And I've always said before, people are going to do what the fuck they want to do. Don't fool yourself. That's one thing I learned at a very early age. You can shoot, you know, it's the old, what's that other saying? You could take a horse to the water, but you can't teach them to drink, right? That I stand by those metaphors because I've witnessed it, I've experienced it, I've seen it in many people I've dealt with over the years. You can hit them right up over the head, smack in the face with basic hardcore truth, and some people they just don't get it. All right. As claimed earlier, the byproduct of developing knowledge and wisdom is a life concurrent growth of personal success, where the allegory identified as the rewards of alchemical study is to turn your personal lead into gold. Alchemical personal transformation. The philosopher's stone, right? We're all familiar with that. The lead is both metaphorical, but also not. Wealth is the collective state of well-being. For those people who are yogically minded, or yogically, you would see it more as benefits in harmony with nature and spiritual warfare. But as I suggested earlier, nature is the conceptual Satan, which I am sure in my books and many others you have heard many varying definitions of. In a later chapter, we discuss the seminal alchemical study of esotericism with a critique on the work of Israel regarding the philosopher's stone. Or a component part of these root words. The key of Solomon is the ability to see all the keys and all the doors. The key of Solomon is to tackle the maze of Daedalus by having all component entrances being explored at the same time, all knowledge equally judged in comparison to all other, not following the faith of a single path. Objectively, you can dismiss the roads that lead to dead ends, but by tackling the process in parallel rather than in series, your limited time is not wasted on one path. You see the maze from a point of elevation, right? When you learn to unlock all the words and all the meanings written across the world in different languages and different mythologies, you will find that hermetically sealed wisdom is not as being one thing, but all things. So the all things are the one thing, and the one thing are all things, right? That's wisdom from the Emerald Tablets of Tahuti. That's what that means, right? When you analyze all the root meanings of these words, or to deliver an essence instead of the labeled singular definition of the word, you then begin to understand the word reveals much greater occult gnosis, which presents itself in all art. The mind is corrupted into believing that the one thing has one label, and this is the divisions in self. I asked you to throw aside at the beginning. Now you must throw away all identity to all things and see that all is one, and all is the sea into which the rivers run. The spirit, which is the conceptual Jehovah, which merely translates to the breath of life, air, wind, word, and chi, it is spiritual in nature. It is no more a God than you are. Yet it is a God by the real and uncorrupted meaning. Although a God claims no authority, manipulators claim authority in the name of their God. And God is merely a conceptual essence of a whole nature or aspect of being. It encompasses all that is under its domain. And so by the unwise, it is conceived as the master of that essence. A Satan is symbolically an adversary to the Jehovah, but like yin and yang, one defines the other. The tan, or the Satan in Hebrew, is the serpent to the inept, and it is that simply established as a snake or dragon or a lizard. But it is so much more. The snake forms motion as waveform, so the serpent shares its symbolicism with water and the motion of water. The serpent can be straightened out, so it forms a length that forms a horizontal line, which in turn represents the horizon. This horizontal axis in turn creates a diametric opposition of the vertical axis. This opposition forms like the cross, the wind which travels across the land like a breath when coming towards you can be perceived as the vertical axis, or when traveling left to right unites with the horizontal, yet one thing rises every time against the horizon. That is the sun. You cannot pass through the door prematurely, though. Do not imagine death as a shortcut to the wisdom. That would be like believing that you can go and study for a 10-year doctorate, but the first day be offered the certificate of completion. True, you will have a certificate, but how is your future enhanced in any way? All right. Any success gained would be momentary and fleeting, but worst of all, artificial. Use every moment of your life to learn, not to teach. Don't follow my example by sharing knowledge with others or trying to convert them or save souls, unless they are an extension of the eternal you. Your children, and even the thirst to learn, must come from them, not from you. Encourage, but don't try to teach abolition of masses by becoming a master practice what you preach. All right? So that's apotheosis. All right? The last thing I want to flip through, what does the shadow self have to do with all this? Okay? Talk about this now real quick. All right. All right, the shadow self. Let's finish with this. All right. To know oneself, we must accept our dark side. Contrary to a Freudian definition of shadow, therefore, the Jungian shadow can include everything outside the light of consciousness and may be equally positive or negative. The shadow is a contradictory element that in Jungian philosophy is comparable to the id that I associate with the personal expression of the unknown God within, which is visibly only through the light it emanates, the light we call Luciferian spirit. Jung places the active subconscious deep within the psyche of the individual. For many people, it is the untapped dark side, and to the Luciferian, it forms a part of the self which, upon personal exploration, reveals a nature that the ego protects us from. Okay? And that's, as I said earlier, the ego is not always a bad thing. Yeah, we can't go through all that. It's too long. The dissolution of the ego allows the individual to reset. If you like the boundaries of inhibition, which are forged by the social mores that we are wholly immersed in. Light conceptually and in your youth appears quite simple to understand its presence, if not light's purpose. Things have degrees of light and darkness. Until we reach higher education, we don't bother to try to understand the phenomena anymore significantly. It may seem bizarre to a Luciferian that the common man seeks very little understanding of the light phenomenon other than the essential use of the common shared experience of day and night. Now I'm going to skip over here. Shadow is the closest we will get to visualizing in alternate dimensions. Yet due to our familiarity with it and our dismissal of its significance as a disunion of light, we allow it to exist as though insignificant. All right? The shadow shares our three-dimensional space, and we are very familiar with it being a reduction in light caused by an obstacle between a source of light and a destination. All right? I'm not going to go through all of this, but as it said in the very beginning, we must get in tune with our dark side. We don't have a choice. Okay? The only way you can truly connect and get that true understanding is by dealing with the shadow self. All right? So this is important. I gotta see if I can get this off. Hold on. It's crazy. Okay, it did go off. Okay, so it stopped. I'm just gonna delete that actually. Okay, so the other one finally stopped and came on. That was some bugged out shit. All right, so let's go through the chat, take some questions, see what we got. All right, so let me go to the top. Hopefully, we're getting a good understanding, or hopefully you're able. This is what this path is about, and I'm going to say anything that's in opposition to this is the complete going the other way on this path. Okay? If you don't understand self-deification, self-mastery, doing it for yourself, not expecting others to do for you, not blaming other people for your bullshit, it's all part of the shadow self. Mastering the shadow self helps you understand this. Not blaming other people for your failures. I can go on and on and on. Those are hard things to shed. Those are hard things just to embrace, because a lot of people walk around feeling they've been dealt a bad hand. A lot of people walk around thinking somebody's doing something to me, because they don't look at it from the perspective that that's a weakness. That's something that can devour you. That's something that can put serious obstacles in your path when you start thinking like that. And it's more dangerous not only thinking like that, but when you really embrace it as your reality, then it becomes even more dangerous. And not only are you a danger to yourself, you start to become a danger to others, just by your way of thinking. Now, if you don't believe that's true, all you got to do is look at the Christian Crusades. Okay? Look at the wars all over the world that have been going on for a long time, all so-called over religion. These are supposed to be spiritual and peaceful religions, but they have no qualms of picking up guns and weapons and killing and bombing and stabbing and fighting each other, all in the name of God. That's not what this path is about. This path is about you. As we read that one excerpt, you've always been the center of your universe. It's always been about you. It stopped being about you when you surrendered your divinity to these external things like religious dogmas, ideologies, a way of thinking. Sometimes being in a certain social circle, you can surrender your divinity, whether you're conscious of it or not. The list goes on and on and on. All right? All right, see what else we got. All right, so peace and greetings to everybody if I didn't greet you. Azariah, Infernal, Blessed Sam Hain, Happy Halloween. Yes, all those that are celebrating it, connect them to the energy. You might be having a masquerade party, whatever it is you're doing, be safe. All right. Yeah, earlier to the point, Lucifer Morningstar. Yeah, there's been crazy shit going on. It seems like I mentioned this Tuesday, and I try to say stuff like this without sounding that I'm coming from Spookyville, because I don't like to sound space cadetty. But it does seem that when we talk about certain topics, this YouTube shit will bug the fuck out. Like just earlier, like yesterday, and there's really no explanation for it. But when this shit is cutting up, disconnecting, but yet my internet, my signal is fine, my modem is connected, the lights are on, and other people are using, I have two other people simultaneously in my house. My wife might be using the internet and they're not having any problems. So it's definitely YouTube doing some crazy shit. Who knows? Yes, like when that crazy shit went haywire when I had Bell Cadman. Oh, that was some funny, crazy shit too. What else we got here? I'm looking for questions. Yep. Happy Hallows Eve. Yeah, the Rights of Lucifer book is on point. Glad to see that you got it. Good. Yeah, shout out to the Black Flame 11 for those in here from the Black Flame 11. Didn't mention that again in the announcements. Uh, March 20th, we will be doing an event, a ritual in New York City. It'll be in actually Queens, New York, if you want to get down with that. If you want to be part of the Black Flame 11 and you're in the tri-state area or surrounding areas, send me an email. But as I've said many times before, it's a group that is formed to do work. It's not a social club. It's not a hangout. It's not, I'm curious the cat. I just want to see what's going on. If you're coming from that perspective, don't even waste your time because we will ask you to leave if you are not contributing or helping out in any way. Okay, just want to make that clear. All right. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, talking about dumb shit on the channels. I received the email. This was this afternoon. This was some funny shit. Some of you might have heard of it. Happened earlier. Some of you might not. Somebody tells me, hey, go online to Sarnetta's channel. Brother Polite, dude, they can't find his daughter. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I go check it out real quick. Something about the whole thing didn't feel right. And again, I'm not going to prejudge. There was people in there saying some crazy shit, saying that Polite set this up. It was a scam. I can't say it is or it isn't. I'd be a hypocrite if I did. Then I saw a video post a couple hours ago. I found her. The thing that sounded a little crazy to me was the story afterwards, and they explained how it happened. People are accusing this of being a publicity stunt. Could be. I can't say it is or it isn't because I'd be a hypocrite. But all I'm going to say on that is, and move on because I don't really care. All I can say is this, that's a situation about a child. If that did happen, glad the child is safe. But man, if dude went that low and you're that desperate for attention that you would go that low, that's probably something you don't want to do. Just a word of advice. All right. Let's see what else we got. That's it. All right. Well, this is a good one here from Azariah Infernal. I'm glad you typed this in. For those that didn't see it, let me read it and let's discuss this real quick. I've been working with Lucifer for over 7 years, and I've had Lucifer present itself both feminine and masculine in the form of a dragon. Anyone ever sensed the feminine aspect of Lucifer? Yes, most definitely. I have. And that's what people fail to understand. Now, when we say Lucifer embodies light and darkness simultaneously, that's connected to embodying the masculine and the feminine successively. Because in that light and darkness, all those various degrees of vibrational frequencies, there is the masculine and the feminine energy. So that's a good point. There is a feminine energy to Lucifer you should get yourself familiar with, right? You see that on the clipotic tree that he needs also, not only within himself, but he also needs Lilith to balance out or make harmony on that other side. This is that. Therefore, we have manifesting on the physical realm. So, yeah, I mean, most definitely, that's a good observation. As far as the dragon, yes, the Lucifer energy is most definitely connected to the dragon, or what some would call the draconian covenant. The draconian spiritual path, right? Draconian, you want to call it. So when you're seeing that dragon energy and connecting to the masculine and feminine of Lucifer,